So, the original invitation was simple, clear, and good. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And to love your neighbor as yourself.
It cut through the rules. It challenged the religious experts. It invited us to serve God and one another. Simple, clear, and good in a complicated world. That's when the early church found itself acting with courage to serve the common good.
When Christians in community became agents of justice, mercy, compassion, and change.
The faith of the church was its source. Faith offered the path to a simple way. Love God, love neighbor, and good things grew from it.
The church was a game changer in education, in healthcare,
In fighting poverty and human rights,
and showing up in the midst of disaster. Many found their vocation, their purpose and passion in answering God's call.
as the hands and heart of Christ in the world.
But not always.
Sometimes the church didn't do the right thing. Sometimes the church let us down big time. The church is full of problems, right?
Because the church is full of people.
And even the church is perfectly capable of breaking our hearts. Maybe you've noticed.
Sometimes it feels like even the church has lost its way.
Remember, love God, love neighbor. Sounds good, but sometimes we don't feel welcome,
Seen
heard.
or inspired.
Instead of real, it feels repressive.
Instead of engaging, it feels empty.
Seriously.
So we have a right to ask, is this still a place where I can make a difference? Is this a place where my gifts and my voice will be honored?
And where I can be a leader.
Is the church still a game changer? Or has it just totally lost us? So we're forced to ask the question.
Do we stay or walk away?
Well, in spite of all its flaws, the church is still our church.
We can make it a place where we find signs of life, of love,
Where something good might still be waiting for us and generations to come.
where people, however broken and divided,
Find a way to come together.
The church can be a place where we ask the biggest questions under a very big roof and share the stories of our lives across generations and differences.
So what do we do now? What will you do?
Maybe what we all need to do now is take a step back.
To the beginning, when things were simple.
When once again, we bring heart, soul, and mind to be agents of justice,
Mercy,
compassion,
diversity,
change.
renewal. You and I can be leaders of the church. And together, we can create a church where no one's an outsider.
A church that cares for others. A church that serves the common good.
Where we're still the hands and heart of Christ. In the streets, the schools, the shelters.
In the parks, the pulpit, the clinics.
Standing with the abused, the neglected, the lost.
Love God, love neighbor.
Jesus was a great teacher. Folks would come from miles around to hear his thoughts and ideas. Many people loved Jesus and listened to everything he said.
What a great teacher, man! Jesus rocks!
Let's get the t-shirt.
But there were some who did not. They were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the teachers of the law.
Jesus? Oh, Jesus. Where's his fancy teaching stick and funny hat?
This guy's a teacher. He looks more like a kitchen cabinet maker. Come on.
Actually, he's a very excellent carpenter. He did my whole dining room in birchwood, or gopher wood. I needed work on the outside, but Jesus came and did the work on the inside, too. I'm a changed hand.
Even though they knuckled down every day to study the teachings of Moses, they had no love in their hearts. One day, Jesus was teaching in the temple. The Pharisees wanted to make him look silly, so they asked Jesus a very, 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 very difficult question.
And Jesus, out of all of the commandments of Moses, which is the most important?
Listen, everyone. The most important commandment has never changed.
Huh?
The Lord your God is one. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your mind, and with all of your strength. Ooh. And love and care for other people in the same way you love and care for yourself.
Wow.
Big bada boom. He nailed it. Give him a hand.
Love God, love other people.
This guy really has a grasp on love, I'll tell you.
Hey, psst, pull my finger.
My favorite biblical reading, among many, is the commandment that Jesus quoted, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your mind, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength." And to that he said, I add, "And you shall love your neighbor as yourself." I grew up in a home with a mother who was an Eleanor Roosevelt fan. But the one thing she taught us was that everyone could be a neighbor. I lived in a community where there were no African Americans. There were people from Poland, people from Ireland, and people from Belgium, the three major groups in the community. The Irish told Polish jokes. The Polish told Irish jokes, and the Belgians told jokes about themselves. That isn't to say that in that community we didn't have others. There were Jews, there were Italians, and as a young boy I learned all the synonyms that my mother told me never to use in referring to anybody else. My father owned a machine shop, and we had a cherry orchard also up in Door County, Wisconsin. And every summer we would go up, and we had about 2,000 cherry trees. And the migrants would come and pick the cherries. And the migrants were from Jamaica. They were from the southern United States. They were from various parts of the country. And they were from Mexico. But whenever we were out there and they came, and it would take about 5 days for them to pick the cherries from our orchard and then move on to the next. But while they were out there, my mother said, learn their names. Find out who they are while you're with them. And I found that so vitally important. When the time came that I was at college, one of my best friends was Hugh Campbell. Hugh was from Jamaica. And I invited Hugh home one Sunday to our church. Boy, did people raise their eyebrows. First Congregational Church, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Hey, the Congregationalists with the Quakers helped with the Underground Railway. Where is this attitude coming from? Church fathers were very relieved when they found out Hugh was from Jamaica and he wasn't going to live in our community. Now, of course, my city has a football team. I remember when the first African American player came. He was a kicker, kicked field goals. Thomas Mann was his name. The town fathers were deeply concerned that he might be planning to stay in our community when the season ended. When I went back 50 years later for my class reunion, and that would have been the year 2003, I heard the people at the table next to me referring to those people. And I wondered, a lot of the African American football players for the Packers were now living in the community. Was that who they were referring to? I leaned closer to hear their conversation and soon found out then, in 2003, that those people were the Mexican workers at the meatpacking plants. And by the way, that when they got the COVID-19 this year, it was one of those meatpacking plants and a group of those people who were first affected and affected very gravely. My life went on when I went on to seminary. a lot of different stories that I can think about. Although the one thing I wanted to say before that was in college, I did have a course with a professor. And in the course, he was looking at the lives of 3 people. A look at the life of Jesus. A look at the life of Albert Schweitzer. And a look at the life of Mahatma Gandhi. I'm so glad I took that course. I remembered Mahatma Gandhi and the way he led